Check the description for the following discount codes. This video isn't like a list of upcoming reviews or anything like that. It's going to be a conversation piece. So if you're not into conversation piece type videos, navigate away. It's going to be me waffling on about VR headsets for 5 or 10 minutes. Now, my daily driver is an Oculus Quest 2, as you can see here, and some of you will have seen, with some headphones that I modified and attached to it, which work really well. Now, I love VR, not just for sim racing, because I can't do much sim racing in VR. I get motion sickness after about 45 minutes to an hour. What I am loving it in is Microsoft Flight Simulator for the most part, because you're flying kind of slow and steady aircraft a lot of the time, unless you happen to jump into a jet and want to make yourself spew up. I can get away with not only not feeling too sick, but a low frame rate. I think I run about 40 FPS, literally half 80 hertz in this, because that's all my RTX 3080 and my 5800X CPU can do. Yeah, that's my daily driver. That's what I mostly use. People have been asking me, Carl, are you going to review any other VR headsets? Obviously, I reviewed the two Pimax headsets, the 5K Super and the 8KX, a couple of months ago. And they were on loan to me from Pimax. I even had to source my own controllers and base stations for the review because they wouldn't send me any on loan, which is just ridiculous. How they expect me to review VR headsets without having any form of tracking or controller, I don't know. I know this is primarily a sim racing channel, but I'm a big VR fan, and I can't just review a headset sat in a seat using the inbuilt gyro to do my head tracking, which isn't even particularly good. If I want to review a VR headset, if I'm going to review a VR headset, I need to be able to use controllers, tracking, and use the headset in everything from flight sim, driving sim, to first-person shooters, you know, and even things like Beat Saber. You know, I want to try it all. It's not much of a wholesome review if you've only tried it without using controllers and sat in your sim rig. Not really very balanced, is it? So the problem I've got is that I have to buy whatever VR headsets I want to review. So I pre-ordered the HP Reverb G2 before launch, whenever that was, last year sometime. That was a wired headset, obviously. This is the thing, this is wireless, and this is important to me. I pre-ordered that, full retail, whatever it was, I can't remember, £600, £700, £500, don't know, whatever it was. Anyway, and I bought that in, and I didn't like it. The visuals, when you found the sweet spot, were super crisp and clear, and the colours were really vibrant, and the blacks were great, and it was the most comfortable headset I've ever used, but the tracking, the controllers was terrible, absolutely terrible. So I ended up just selling that on, because I don't want a headset just for sim racing, because I don't mostly race in VR. I want a headset that's a good all-rounder for all sorts of VR play, which is why I've ended up still keeping the Quest 2, because for me it's comfortable enough, could be better, not as good as the Reverb G2. The audio from standard was completely pants, I mean terrible, which is why I've fitted speakers, and I shouldn't really have to do that, but it's a £299 headset, some compromises are allowed. The controllers, of course, which are over there, are the most comfortable controllers I've used. I personally really dislike the Valve Index controllers. The thumbsticks, for me, put my thumbs out like this, and I could, like, almost at full extension, and then operate. It's just not comfortable, and I can't get it in a comfortable position where my thumbs are not having to extend out sideways to get to the thumbsticks. It just doesn't work for my hand shape and size. I really like the Oculus controllers. The CV1 controllers, you know, the OG ones, they were great. The Rift S ones were a little slimmer, not quite as nice. The Quest 2 ones, in my opinion, and for my hands, are spot on. So, yeah, I didn't like the G2 for those reasons primarily. Moved that on, and since then, we've had quite a few headsets released. We've seen headsets from Pico, Vario, Apara, HTC, even HP released the G2 2.0, you might call it, with a few revisions. And then, of course, there was the failed Deca Gear, which was supposed to have been available back in March, and I believe has now been ditched altogether. So I'm glad I didn't invest any money in that Kickstarter. But that, out of all of them, was the most interesting of the headsets. The reason I'm still here with this Quest 2 and haven't invested in any of these other headsets is because they all come with compromises that I personally don't like. And this is a conversation piece here, so this is my personal preferences. Obviously, this won't apply to all of you, and you all have different needs and wants. For me, not having a wire, being able to play VR completely wirelessly is so important. Every time I go back to a headset with a cable, I instantly dislike it. Not only does it pull on you a little bit, you just have to be conscious of standing on it, twisting it. Yes, there's software you can use that warns you when you twist it too many times. I just don't want to have to do it. There's we've got the technology now where even just over a normal Wi-Fi 6 router with a built-in Wi-Fi connection to the Quest 2 here, we can get a really playable experience. And being able to just fully rotate when you're in first-person shooters, you hear someone coming behind you, just to be able to spin round and shoot them and then spin back round again without having to be conscious of, am I tangling the cable above my head? Is it twisting around my ankles? How many times have I turned round? Do I need to look down at my little spiral on the floor and see how far I've gone? Am I listening out for the beeps to tell me to turn back round? I don't want to have to do any of that, and you don't have to, because the Quest 2 solves all those issues. Yes, it's front heavy because it's an all-in-one, and they could have done with perhaps putting the battery in the back to balance it out. Yes, it could definitely have had better speakers. The IPD adjustment is limited to 3 fixed positions, but thankfully the middle one is fine. For me, the field of view isn't the biggest, but it also isn't the smallest. The LCD panel isn't the greatest. The blacks are more of a grey because of the way it's backlit. Top tip here, turning the brightness down in the options to about halfway actually gives you much better blacks and a much less washed out image. It's not without its compromises, but that freedom to just wander around without cable restrictions is, to me, invaluable. I can literally, my router's on the windowsill over there, I can go outside in the garden and play VR on a cloudy day with the biggest play space in the world. Well, the maximum you can do, 10 meters by 10 meters. I can't do that with any other headset. And I'm not going to include the wireless TP-Link kit for the HTC Vive. That's just ridiculously cumbersome and expensive when this can do it for a fraction of the price with no additional things bolted on the top of your head or hanging out, wires, HDMI cables, power cables hanging out. It's not really the same thing. You can't really compare that. And again, the HTC controllers are crap. So they still sell the ones with the Vive Pro 2. So for me, because I've got to pay for everything, I'm yet to see something that I want to put my money on, and get in, not just for review, but to be my daily driver VR headset for both flight sim, a little bit of sim racing, and then all the other VR titles, rhythm-based games, first-person shooters, whatever it might be. It's got to do everything. So top of my priority list is wireless functionality. That is literally top of the tree. I can't see myself buying a wired VR headset. I just can't see myself doing it. Things like the Vario, their consumer release headset, the visuals look amazing from the reviews that I see, but they lose. Oh, what is it? Is it the vertical field of view? It's a bit narrow on us. I think it's a vertical field of view. It's a bit narrow, and of course it's wired and it's mega expensive. So I don't want to have to go smaller field of view than what the Quest has, because it isn't a huge field of view anyway. One of the things that will be most appealing to me going forward, apart from being wireless, which is a must, is having a wider field of view. Now, the Pimax headsets don't do that well. It's a blurry mess. It looks like you're in a fishbowl, and it makes me feel ill. Plus, they're large, they're heavy, they're uncomfortable, and they have a huge cable that's kind of clingy as well. So that's not a good implementation of a wide field of view, in my opinion, or for what I want. So going forward, must be wireless, must have at least the same, I mean, this is the thing, if it's wireless and it's got the same field of view as a Quest, it's probably not much point me buying it, because what would be the upgrade? Maybe it's a higher resolution panel, but this is already quite a high resolution panel, and trying to run this with everything maxed out in various VR titles, even with my 3080, can be a struggle. So again, going higher resolution isn't right now a positive thing, because there isn't really a PC out there that can run these high resolution headsets at decent frame rates. And by decent frame rates, I mean the native refresh rate of the panel. I'm not talking about using reprojection where you run it at half the refresh rate. If your panel's 90 Hertz, you want to hit 90 FPS. That's how it should be. Like I say, in Microsoft Flight Sim, I can actually run this at 40 Hertz, and the experience isn't too bad. But if I was playing anything fast-paced, whether it be a sim racing title or a first-person shooter or a beat-based game, but would be just awful. So things like the Pimax headset, they have a really high resolution because of how wide the panel is, and they're just almost impossible to run at that native resolution with full render resolution. So let's not dive into this too deeply, but VR renders about 40 to 50% higher than the resolution of the panel if you want a close to native resolution experience in your sort of center of the display. Like, let's take the Reverb G2 for example. It's 2160 by 2160 per eye. It renders about 40-50% higher than that, and that is your best settings for optimal quality. It's not super sampling, don't get that confused. I've done videos on this. If you want to go on the channel and look for them, you can. But anyway, it's very demanding to run these high resolution panels. So for me, the next headset that I buy has got to be wireless. The resolution doesn't need to be any higher than what the Quest is. It would be nice if it's a better panel, something with better blacks and better colours, like what's in the G2, for example. Screen door effect on this is very minimal. You don't see it unless you really look for it on something white, which you just don't do. So that would be fine. But it's got to be wireless, and ideally, it's got to have a wider field of view, because otherwise I'd just be effectively buying what's another Quest 2, but from a different brand. So this is why I'm yet to buy any other VR headsets apart from the G2, obviously, that I tried last year, and I reviewed those Pimax ones because they were sent over, because nothing has come out that ticks all the boxes for me. They've either got a cable, they're not wireless, which is just a no-go for me, and like I said, this is for me, this is my conversation point. Everyone's got different needs. They're either not wireless, or they in some way have compromised something else, like the tracking is bad, the controllers are bad, the field of view, like what was it, the HTC Vive Pro 2 was like looking through a letterbox. And yes, you can get used to all of this, but I don't need to get used to it. I've got something that I'm happy with for the most part here, and unless something comes along that does everything this does and then adds to the experience, I'm not going to be interested. That's what I need. I need something that does everything the Quest 2 does and more, whether it be wider field of view, whether that be a more balanced headset with a battery perhaps in the back, whether it has better audio built in. I mean, although in fairness, I have solved that problem. It's going to need to have nice controllers. It's just going to need to be everything I've already got and then some additional improvements. It can't be, we've got a higher resolution, much nicer panel, better contrast ratio, better blacks, but the tracking's crap. It can't be, we've got a huge field of view, but it's distorted, it's uncomfortable. You need to buy base stations and controllers, and the whole package costs you £2,000. It can't be like that. There's too many compromises for me. And again, this comes back to personal choice. Those of you that only sim race in VR might not care about, tracking of the controllers, as long as the headset tracks well. So everyone is going to be different. But this is just me, talking about what I want in a VR headset, and why, even though there have been headsets from Pico, Vario, Apara, HTC, and I haven't reviewed any of them, it's because I have to pay for them. And unless they present me with something that is a viable upgrade, and I mean an all-round upgrade, not just in one area, then I'm just not going to be interested in it. So for now, I was kind of hoping Facebook, Meta, Oculus, whatever you want to call them, we're going to release a new Quest, at Facebook Connect or Meta Connect, whatever they called it, a month or so ago. But they didn't, so yeah, shit happens. But until something comes out that that replaces this in every way, there's, that's where I'm going to be. There's going to be sort of no more VR headset reviews until that happens, really. The Deca Gear was the one that caught my attention the most, because that claimed to be, everything I need. Wireless out the box, ultra low latency, high resolution, eye tracking, mouth tracking, all these additional features, great field of view, blah, blah, blah. And then of course it looks like the idea is completely tanked. But, that's what I'm holding out for until I reach into my pocket to buy another VR headset. Obviously if VR manufacturers want to send me things over for review like Pimax did, then they'll be reviewed, because I like to play with new technology as much as anybody, even if it is a wired headset. I know it's something I wouldn't keep for myself, but I'm more than happy to review them for people who wireless isn't important. Sim racers, for example, and flight sim guys that are quite happy to have a cable because you're sat in your rig. So doesn't mean to say there won't be any more VR reviews until something comes out that ticks all the boxes for me, but it's just going to be down to the headset manufacturers choosing to, send me something over. And I am only a small channel, so it's not unexpected that I don't get a plethora of headsets sent to me like some of the other channels do. But anyway, that's 15 minutes of me waffling on, more than enough, I think. Let me know your thoughts about what you want in a new VR headset going forward, whether, like me, being a wireless, all-in-one that can also connect to your PC is important, or whether you're a sim racer or a flight sim guy and you're happy to be sat in your rig, with your cable plugged in. You can worry about it going flat, and you can often get a better experience that way. It's a lighter headset, often more comfortable, like the G2, for example. But yeah, thank you very much for watching, and as always, take it easy.